Hello everyone. This is the 13th part of the story Game of Thrones, the Prideful one. Chapter 62. After the birth of the twins, I stayed a couple of weeks on the island with Daenerys and them. They were so beautiful, my little Geralt and Alyssa Mormont, but everything must come to an end, and for me it was unfortunately, it was time to go. I had enemies and rivals that I had to eliminate, to ensure the safety of my family. So today, it would be my parting day. I was sad to leave. But I had the memory of that fateful day. I'll never forget the moment I held my son and daughter for the first time. I was mentally exhausted and terrified and mostly overwhelmed with everything, but then moment I laid my eyes on them I was also so very much in love, love at first sight. It was as if my life was theirs now, and it probably was. A part of me still couldn't believe this was actually happening, while another part of me felt overwhelmed with all the happiness, and I can only imagine what Daenerys feels when she looks at them. My ravens were very much in love with my kids. Rhoda personally had requested to be there for them to defend them should anything come their way. How could I reject such offer? Promise to come back, Daenerys smiled, holding the twins with a soft smile. If not for me, for them. I will, I smiled, kissing her and the babies in the forehead. My son was probably a baby copy of me. He had her mother's eyes though, but with my complexion, dark hair, and same skin tone. As for my daughter, she took so much from Daenerys. I could faintly see she would have white golden hair like her mother. One thing I knew is that I would spoil the ever-living shit of them. As I continued to talk with Daenerys, I heard one of my men shout that a ship was coming. A ship? It couldn't be any enemies. I had half of my krakens protecting the island, and they would never leave their posts, so whoever was coming was friendly, or at the very least using friendly colors, which would prove my defenses needed some improvement. With a look, Daenerys understood that it was best if she and the twins waited inside the castle, while I sorted this unexpected incident. Gathering a few of my men, I ran to the bay ready for anything. Should they be enemies, they had committed the most stupid and sad attempt of an infiltration ever. If they were allies, well, I suppose the term allies is a vague one. I only trust Daenerys and my animals, and I suppose my family. It didn't take us long to arrive at the coast. After all, we were very close, mostly because I was supposed to leave today. The ship that had arrived had my house colors and banner, so it either meant that some of my men had decided to go over my orders and come, or someone had stolen one of our ships and was trying to Trojan horse my ass. With an eyebrow raised, and mild curiosity taking over, I approached the ship, even more from a new perspective, and now I could clearly see from this new angle that the men running the ship were my men. Hello, my lord, or should I call you my king now? That voice was easy to recognize. Daisy Mormont was here. With a sigh I turned around, seeing her sitting on a pile of rocks and weapons, with a stern but playful look. Behind her was Lyanna, with a shy expression on her face but also with a strong resolve to be here, standing with her custom-made armor to fit her young body. Hi, my lord. I mean, my king. Maybe she was nervous. They had disobeyed my rules, after all. I'm going to ask this once, and only once. I smiled coldly, narrowing my eyes. Why are you two here? Daisy took a step forward without skipping a beat and answered without fear or hesitation. To help you. We are family, and we bears stand together, so here we stand. There she goes, quoting our family motto. I sighed, turning my gaze to Lyanna. And why is she here? You must know she is too young for war. Mormont women don't shy off from war or a fight. Lyanna said with determination, shaking her apparent shyness away like it never existed. Tell that to a man piercing your throat, I spat. She could be killed or raped, or worse. I want to be of help. I have been training. I can do it, Lyanna said with resolve. You two have disobeyed direct orders from your lord and now king, I stated with an emotionless tone, but I'm a kind man, so your punishment will be light. Daisy, you will help me on the fight, but seeing you can't follow simple commands, you will be under me, as one of my guards, losing control of the men you brought and anything. It will be my honor. Daisy kneeled, her blade shining with the daylight. This was supposed to be a light punishment, demoting her from commander to a simple guard, and it aligned with my original plan, for I would keep her out of trouble. As for you, Lyanna, I had to think of another job that sounded like a punishment but was actually not my baby's bingo. You will guard and protect my kids with your life, is that clear? Both Lyanna and Daisy froze for a moment, smiles forcibly forming in their faces. It would be a great honor, my king. Lyanna practically threw herself into a kneeling position. Once again, my pseudo-punishments weren't taken that way, but I suppose only our family would take something like this. They had lost for the moment being their power to command others as a punishment, and yet they were happy to serve me, in ways most lords that had a taste for power would find demeaning and a waste of their so-called superior qualities. After a long minute of nothing but dead silence, I laughed as I hugged the living shit out of them. Now that I did my kingly duty, are you two ready to meet your niece and nephew? Niece and nephew? Lionel inquired with excitement but was confused by the terminology. After all, they weren't my biological sisters, and my kids weren't their niece and nephew, but I was raised with them. They were my family and the closest thing I had to siblings. Yes, now we can leave them waiting. They are eager to meet their aunts. I smiled, practically dragging them over to the castle. I had to flex my adorable bundles of joy, like a good father I had to. Euron Greyjoy point of view. Soon, the Sea Stone throne would be mine, with my ship the Silence, adorably named for the fact that I cut out the tongues of all who serve it in, just because a mute man can't spill secrets, my secrets, or annoy me by talking. Ronard might have a big army, overwhelming mine, but he made a grave and terrible mistake, for his greatest weapon would turn to be his greatest weakness. His dragons would turn on him because I will be able to control them with the dragon horn I found in Valyria. A little blow on this bad guy and his dragons will obey me, and his head will be toasted. I smiled, for this war was won the moment I entered it. After admiring my trump card for a bit, I decided to go to the war council. I had been invited to see what were the plans the old lion had. I have heard of you, Tywin, the old lion said with a scrutinizing look as if measuring me up, and his expression said he was not impressed. But oh, he should, cruel and fearless, but also, unstable. You might be already playing us. You only play for your own gain, and that is something I can respect, but unlike you, we Lannisters keep our word and pay our debts. We shouldn't trust him. He is a man that insults the gods and stabs everyone he serves, one of Tywin's generals said, looking at me with disdain. Godless? Me? Tywin, it seems your generals are going senile. I am the godliest man ever to raise sail. You serve merely 7 gods, but I have served 10,000. From I be to ass high, and for that I was made the drowned god, and now when men see my sails, they pray. But I don't listen. I smiled at the everyone table. Don't worry, we share a common enemy, one that we both want, death. That we do, for now. Tywin nodded. The old was catching on. He knew or expected my betrayal once we eliminated our common enemy. No wonder he has such a fame. Chapter 63. After presenting my wife and kids to my cousins and letting them get to know each other a bit with small talk and stuff, I left for Mir and Tyrosh, the next targets of my list, leaving both Lyanna and Daisy on the island, with the mission to protect my most precious things. I knew that my son, Geralt Mormont, and my sweet little princess, Alyssa Mormont, my 2 greatest treasures, would be safe. I still remember when Daenerys asked why I had named our son Geralt. Sadly, it's a reference she will never understand. While I originally wanted to bring Daisy with me, I eventually caved into the new voice in my head saying she would do better than any other soldier in my army protecting the babies. She was a woman's that could give Brienne a run for her money in battle, and would die for me, my kids or my wife. She was initially surprised that I had changed my mind, but still happily obliged to her new task at hand. And finally, after almost 2 months of doing nothing but chilling for the most part, and taking in the fact I was a parent, I was back on my conquest plans. Mir and Tyrosh. Mir was a city close to the shore and Tyrosh was an island, so I would have to be careful while pushing them. Unlike during Lys Siege, I didn't have many Krakens to take their navy down. After all, I had left the majority of them in Lys to ensure invaders found the place a tad difficult to invade. But even one Kraken can do a lot of damage, so I decided to kill 2 cities with 1 stone, with a simple, yet effective plan. First, I would send 2 out of the 3 Krakens I had with me right now to Tyrosh, their mission the same they had in Lys, to destroy their navy and cage them in with no escape, the last Kraken to attack Mir's navy, slowly decimating them. While I would be leading the charge to Mir with my cavalry on the land. With this triple assault, I would cut the amount of time it would take me to subdue both cities, ensuring maximum efficiency. In a military point of view, all I knew about Mir was that they, like Dorne, fought traps and misdirection, by using poisons and other stuff to kill their enemies. Everything in Mir was coated in poison from the daggers to the arrows, which was incredibly effective against my basically naked Dothraki, but even with their Dorne-like tactics, we would win. Mir didn't have a big army, being among the weakest cities in Essos, but the reason it was one of the best cities available was because they were the most technologically advanced city in Essos and probably the known way world. I have to destroy these cities fast. The last thing I want is my kids forgetting my face. I chuckled as I sulked in sadness imagining that. They won't forget your smell. I know I wouldn't, Neltharion added, approaching me from behind, trying to calm me down, but ended scaring the crap out of me. Since when can you talk? I wasn't scared, but from only hissing to this, it was a big jump. A month or so, one day I didn't know, and the next one. Neltharion shrugged. And you just now decided to talk? I inquired, wondering why it took him a month to do so. Never had anything good to say before, and you never asked. Besides, you understand me without talking, Neltharion answered. From now on, tell me when you learn something new. Do your brothers talk like you? I inquired. Did they evolve like him, or would it take them more time? Sure and no. My brothers can't talk yet. Rhoda says it's because I'm the one that spends more time with you, so they will need more time. Don't really know what that has to do with it, but that's what he said. Neltharion shrugged. Rhoda was probably onto something with that. Usually animals, the closer they get to me, the weirder they get. It all started with him, who eventually changed to Rhoda, which would explain why Neltharion was the first of his brothers to talk. So Rhoda's theory had some merit. I was basically a radioactive man that gave animals personalities and a voice. Huh, well, take that evolution, shove it. I chuckled. Anyway, don't sulk. My new brother and sister won't forget you, Neltharion added, trying to finalize my concerns. I looked at the dragon, whose size was roughly above a big dog now, and smiled. Well, and even if they do, I'll work it out. That's the spirit, Dad, Neltharion hissed happily. So how long before I can burn people? If this was a human kid, that question would probably be considered a red flag. A week or so, but the word normal left the building I like to call my brain a long time ago, with all the shit going on in my world. Great, I will show them what happens when they mess with Neltharion Mormont. Neltharion hissed, breathing out some fire. Neltharion Mormont. Well, that was unexpected. Neltharion Mormont? I chuckled. Yes, you are my father, and fathers give their last name, right? Neltharion tilted his head in confusion. Oh, you mean I forgot my other last name? Sorry, Neltharion Mormont Ravenicus. Yeah, that wasn't what I meant, my cute and now talking dragon, Ravenicus. Well, they did brood you a lot. Neltharion nodded as he muttered, I know, but sometimes I don't like them. They are always trying to feed me corn, but I don't like it. Caw. How? You have any idea how hard we work for that corn, ungrateful chick? A raven appeared out of nowhere. As I watched the raven and Neltharion discuss, one thought that made me smile crossed my mind. My little babies would have a life full of random shit, but it would be a wholesome one. Raven's uncles, dragon's brothers, horse cousins. Things will surely never go dull with this family around. I can burn you. I dare you. Caw. Just try. Caw. Nick Fury Ravenicus point of view. I was like always doing my job, that was spying these unstable motherfuckers to ensure they didn't do anything to hurt the CORNBRINGER. I was, after all, part of the Council of Ravens and the director of the spy network in Westeros, so I had to aim for perfection. Today in my normal routine, I had found an interesting item, a horn that apparently could control dragons. That was a big motherfucking no. Euron Greyjoy was the current owner, keyword being current, because I was about to steal that shit or destroy it. I was not going to take risks. If that horn worked, it could be a nuclear deterrent, one that wasn't allowed to exist outside Ronard hands. And I have to thank Euron for letting me know about its existence, because if it wasn't for this crazy-ass motherfucker that for some weird-ass reason talked to himself for 2 hours about how the horn was awesome and how the horn would ensure his victory, I would have guessed the horn was simply bad indoor decoration item, or a really bad souvenir. For one part, the horn might just be a stupid horn, with no use that is being glorified by delirious thoughts of a madman. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. You can't never be too careful. I can't let such thing to be even be a possibility. We have a mission. That mission is simple. We must retrieve that horn the caw. Crazy-ass pirate has, any questions? I asked my Raven squad. What do we do if retrieval is impossible? One Raven asked, raising his wing. We destroy it. Our priority is ensuring that our CORNBRINGER has no threat for when he comes back. Is that clear? Caw. I said as I opened my wings, to make an emphasis and close the point. Caw! My squad cawed in one voice. Then let's roll! I shouted, as me and my 40 Raven squad took off, our destiny the room of madman. Chapter 64. A man entered my room without knocking, staring at me for a second with a dagger on his hand that was knocked down by one of my ravens, and unfortunately for him, I'm a soft sleeper, so as soon the dagger was on the floor I dashed at him with a swift motion barely moving, managing to seize the attacker to a wall with a knife to his throat without waking Neltharion. I proceeded to order my ravens to check the perimeter, as I interrogated the man. Yawning, I whispered to his ear without missing a beat, I was having a good dream, and you fuck it, so who the fuck are you? The man gulped, shaking dumb with fear. Magister poorly sent me, for Mir, I was supposed to kill you before you arrived. I hummed at that. How did someone manage to get within my crew and do such a thing? My ravens would have noticed it. Then again, I don't have as many ravens to spy SOs as I would like, so things are bound to slip by. Since when are you here? I sized the man up. He wasn't an assassin, no by a long shot, but was sneaky enough to be a thief. Since Pentos, the man stammered. The plan was one would kill you, while another caused a diversion. Some of my crew members had been personally picked by Illyrio, like the chefs and other non-combatant members of my personal, and being honest with myself, I don't keep an eye on him as much as I would like. My ravens have become limited with the range they have now to cover. Did Illyrio knew about this? Yes. He and Magister poorly talked about it in the tombs of Pentos. The man nodded with fear. Oh, fat man, you have sealed your fate, not that it wasn't sealed already, I see. Is there anybody else on this ship? A few that I know of, but I don't know their names or identities. If a pair fails, the other will try later, the man answered, tears rolling down his cheeks. We are a few because he knows you would not kill all of your crew just to purge us out. Not necessarily all the crew, just the people from Pentos, but nah, I will find you guys one by one. I smiled, cutting his throat, and in the process waking up Neltharion. Who was that? Neltharion inquired, yawning while stretching his legs. A nobody, I yawned back, deciding I would deal with this sad attempt to kill me later, after my morning tea. Okay, Neltharion said, going back to sleep. My call, we captured an assassin. One of my blood riders shouted. It seems they have captured the diversion. Just how low they think of me, sending commoners to kill me. I must at the very least the hardest men to kill. With a sigh and forgetting about my morning tea, I walk out of the room. Your false king is dead. The diversion shouted. Wow, don't count the chicks before the eggs hatch, I chuckled as I walked to the man, that by this point was extremely surprised. So how much were you guys paid? I mean, it must be a lot, considering. Well, none of you would make it out of here alive, I smiled, taking a seat. We do it for the greatness of the Magisters. The man spat, making my blood riders to react by breaking his arms. The only great one is our call, and those who oppose his herd will die, my blood rider said with a dark smile. Pray to your god, see if he saves you, or maybe your Magister. PFF, very well, kill him. I yawned. This guy, unlike the last one I killed, was a fanatic, and that type rarely shares information. What do we do? My blood rider inquired as he cut the assassin's head with his curved blade, probably wondering if there were more of them hiding. Listen up everybody, don't trust anyone that is not a Dothraki, or an Ironborn. If you see anyone cough in a suspicious way, let me know, I shouted for everyone to hear. Some of the Pentos crew was nervous, others were downright scared, and they should. We are to arrive at Mir in a couple of hours. I would recommend killing all the Pentosi men and women, my blood rider said, flashing a bright, happy smile at them. That would ensure we kill them all, but I like the challenge, or we can do this. I smiled, taking a step forward. Those who come out now will be forgiven, those who don't will be tortured once I find out. I will make sure those who don't suffer for months before dying. A dead silence followed after that, but I waited. Seconds turned into minutes, but eventually, 3 men walked forward, kneeling. Magister poorly has our families, please. Some of us didn't have a choice, one of them begged. The other 2 had similar reasons, and because I was a dad now, let's say I had a soft spot for those willing to kill themselves for their families. Very well, you 3 are forgiven, but for the moment being you will stay on the cells, just to avoid accidents. With that done, I walked to my room, but a concerning thought blasted my mind. I left Pentosi personal and Liss, my wife, my kids. Almost snapping my neck, I turned to one of my ravens. Go and make sure Daenerys and my kids are safe and sound. Daenerys' point of view. A few days after Ronard left, assassins tried to take my life, and not only that, but they also tried to kill my babies. Moments like this I'm glad Ronard is and will be overprotective of us. His animals jumped out from unseen corners to attack the assassins, from bears and horses to snakes and ravens. They all fought, helping Daisy fend them off alongside Lyanna and Yora. Lyanna got stabbed in the process while pushing an assassin out of the room by tackling him, and if it wasn't for Yora, it would have been too late to notice their intents. He overheard their plan and rushed to my room, waking me up and alerting Daisy just in time for her and Lyanna to fight the 16 men off. The snakes, ravens and our new battle bears fought the men off with ease, destroying the attempt to our lives. In the end, I was completely unharmed, and so were my babies. The only one that got hurt was poor Lyanna, who got stabbed on the arm, but the doctors said she would be fine and would make a full recovery. Are you alright, my queen? Yora asked. I am, thanks. I nodded, my mind still racing at the thought of my babies getting hurt, but now that the storm had calmed down, all I could think of was if my Ronard was okay. He had to, so we could burn Illyrio for this. He had to have a hand in this, and he would pay with fire and blood what he tried to do. Ronard will go crazy when he hears of this, Daisy sighed. Who is next, bitches? A bear growled. Unfortunately, nobody could understand him. This is how we do it in the motherland. Another bear added. That was excellent. A snake hissed. Ravens for the win. A raven added. These animals aren't normal, Yora muttered, seeing as if the animals were having a civilized conversation. Nick Fury Ravenicus' point of view, 2 days earlier during the mission Horn Retrieval. Entering the room of the crazy-ass motherfucker was easy, and everything was going according to the plan. That was until the unstable bastard entered the room, staring at my squad, carefully lifting the horn. He took a second to process what was happening before he rushed to stop us. Oh no you don't, motherfucker. I dived him in, trying to gouge his one good eye. I'ma scratch the heck out of you, bitch. What is wrong with these birds? Euron growled, slapping me away, but by the moment he managed to do so, the horn was flying out of the window. By bitch. I caught, flying out, giving him the bird. Chapter 65. The next day early morning after we settled our camp close to the coast of Myr, I rode with 5,000 men to Myr, to leave a message, surrender and die fast, or surrender and die slow. Our camp was set fairly close to the city, 2 hours on ours, to optimize my troops' movements. I knew Daenerys and my kids were safe, a raven had informed me of it. I could feel it too deep within my heart, but still. Just knowing they had attempted to take them away from me, forever. It fired up an unyielding monster of rage that was running wild deep within me. I wanted more than ever to kill those who had hands in this suicidal arrangement. I wanted to see their lives slip through their eyes. My call, one of my blood riders said, bringing me back to reality, and it seems Myr was waiting for me. The city was closed, and there were people on the walls, the Magister, and some other nobles. By the looks of it, they wanted to end this with a duel. The audience of highborns, and how they weren't trying to shoot me down with arrows, shouted it was that way. They would send their champion, and he would fight for Myr, and he would die for Myr too. A boy riding with savages, you are no true king, you are nothing. And today we will show you that. I could hear the Magister cackle in amusement. He was like every Magister, totally despicable, disgusting, repulsive, and right now, there wasn't anything I wanted more than to cut his head off. Our champion will show you that. Let me my call, it would be my honor. My blood rider said, practically begging to be my champion, but I silenced him with a plain glare. If someone was going to fuck their morale was me. Seconds after the doors of Myr opened, and a man with a horse galloped out of the city, their champion, confirming my suspicions. They wanted to make an example of my forces, by defeating my champion with theirs. That way if they won, which they would not, it would boost the morale of everyone serving them. Too bad I was about to drop that morale so low they would need therapists. I started walking towards the champion. From afar I could clearly see he was 3 feet or more above my height, a giant on his own right. With a smile, the giant stops around 50 meters from me and turns to his people, shaking his massive 2-handed axe over his head while shouting how he would kill me and my army would follow. Everyone in Myr cheered for him, including their army, that is supporting the giant by slamming their spears against their shields. Being supremely bored with this sad facade, I started to sprint towards him. initiating the fucking duel once and for one, with shield and sword in hands. The giant turned around at this with a flashing smile, throwing a spear at me. Without breaking my stride, I raise my shield, blocking the attack. I don't stop, nor slow down, I just keep going towards him, smiling. The giant in reaction to this snarls at me and hoists a second spear and hurls it at me with even greater strength, but once again I simply raise my shield, blocking the attack and breaking the spear in two. With a smile, I stop for a second as I cast aside my sword, immediately speeding up towards him. By this point, the big man knows even with his limited brain power that spears won't kill me, so with a growl, he unsheathed a massive two-handed sword to wield on his left hand while he used the two-handed axe on his right. With a beastly growl, the giant lets loose a battle cry, and charges at me. It took me a few seconds to be in front of the soon-to-be dead men, who in reaction to my speed tried to raise his weapons trying to crush me with a double strike, but I lunged forward with terrifying speed, closing the gap to his personal space, and before he even had the chance to use his weapons and bring them down on me, I proceeded to thrust and bash my shield straight through his skull repeatedly, over and over and over again, until there wasn't anything but a puddle of blood where his head used to be. There will be no mercy, there will be no peace, those who oppose me today will suffer. I shouted for everyone to hear, as I spat on the former champion. After killing the champion, I left the borders of Mir, going back to my camp to coordinate with my army. I still had to plan how we would approach the siege. For one part, my Kraken was already laying waste to their navy, and in a matter of hours, all their ships would be down the sea. Unfortunately for me, the siege would take more than that. I had many options. Between them was burning the city, poisoning the water supply, and more. But I wanted to have something to rule after the dust settled, and I would. So after a few hours discussing and planning with my generals, I decided to infiltrate and open the gates myself, breaking their defense from the inside out. If that did work out, all my generals had to do was have the army in the gates of Mir by tomorrow morning. With the plan at hand, I left my generals in charge, while I rode with a horse to the castle, with nothing but 2 ravens and my blade on my side. Once inside, I would have to find someone stupid enough to betray their people just enough for me to get in with my army, and then kill them. It was dark, very dark, the moonlight barely shining tonight, and thanks to that, nothing could be seen unless you were a nocturnal animal, the perfect time to sneak inside the castle. With patience and focus, I climbed the castle walls, barehanded, making sure not to make any sound whatsoever, step by step taking my time. I knew once I was on the wall, I would find archers waiting for me, so I had to be careful. If I could avoid killing anyone during this infiltration, it would be most beneficial because I would avoid people going after me, but that's just wishful thinking, and that didn't exist on war. After roughly 15 minutes of climbing, I was nearly at the top. 3 archers were patrolling the area. Sadly for them, they would have to die. Pushing my entire body up above the wall with my hands, I dived the archers, killing them so fast that they didn't even have time to process what was going on. They just fell like lifeless dolls to the ground. That was mercy, not that they deserve it, but killing them with a single swing of my blade was as merciful as I could be, and I didn't want to be merciful. Moving through the shadows, while using my ravens to locate every enemy within the area, I avoided every single soldier. If I had to take a guess, I would say the Magister would know someone infiltrated by morning because the new archers from the morning shift would find the ones I killed there, but by that moment, it would be already too late. Magister, poorly, the army is moving towards us, but considering their speed, they don't intend to attack. A voice caught my attention, no that I recognized, but the information was of importance to me. The young Westerosi must be planning to scare us with his massive numbers. The Magister laughed. Too bad our attempt to kill him and his family failed. It would have made our life easier. Now all I have to do is wait for Illyrio, and together we will crush this thorn in our sides. What a lucky surprise. I found the idiot who rules this city, and he admitted trying to kill me, and my family, and while right now there wasn't anything I wanted more than to torture him to the point where his sanity was forever lost, I had a mission that in the long run would ensure my victory. If I killed him, his men would eventually overwhelm me, and I would die, and I'm not ready to try and see if the God of Light will Edo Tensei my ass back to the living. I had enough of the gods for an entire lifetime, so I rather avoid situations where I would need him or them. So taking a deep breath, I moved forward with my plan, leaving the Magister behind. For now, just for now, he would live. After hours exploring and sneaking the city at night, I found the gates I was looking for, but the system used to open them proved to be complicated for myself. it was one of those gates you needed two men to open them, one in each corner to pull the levers, which was humanly impossible for me. I guess, so with this in mind, I modified my plan a bit. Knowing I would need help to open the gates, I set my sights to the only source of willing men inside this place that would even consider helping me. Mir's prison. But I wasn't going to jailbreak any criminal, I had to see their charges. Fortunately for me, the prison I infiltrated was mostly inhabited by petty criminals, so I took the first man I saw, and freed him for this shithole. His crime? Stealing food for his family. His sentence? Dying on the plaza for everyone to see. What did I offer him? A job with a good and stable income, and his freedom, if he helped me. It wasn't surprising when he cried while accepting my offer, but things went downhill from there. See, I would have stopped my prison break with him, but I can't turn away so many willing men that are absolutely not deserving of death and that also happen to be begging to help me take the Magister down, some just for a piece of bread, others for their freedom, some for a job. So, considering my long-term plans, I accepted. Besides, it's not like I was freeing rapers, killers, or something worse, no. For some reason, this prison had hundreds of so-called criminals that had only committed petty crimes. And even though their crimes were at much deserving of a few months or years of jail, they were still sentenced to death. A tad harsh and sad for them, but just what I needed, people hating the current system and willing to support anyone for a chance of retribution. So by the end of the night, I had freed around 200 men while killing along the way around 50 guards. But a bunch of men without weapons were nothing but sacks of flesh begging to be cut, so we raided the prison, killing every guard and stealing every weapon. In the end, I had 200 men, poorly equipped, but ready to die for a new era. The first thing I did once I was outside the prison was to order the men I had just liberated to move in groups around the city while hiding their presence the best they could. Their mission was simple: they would wait for me to rush at the gates to come out and cause a diversion, buying me as much time as possible. With that done, I sneaked back to the gates with 4 men following me through the shadows. Thank God the gates were conveniently somewhat close to the prison. Once we were there, all we could do was wait. My ravens would tell me when it was time to open the doors. Minutes turned into hours, but our time lurking in the shadows was coming to an end, for a raven was flying close by shouting, "Open the gates!" My raven cawed loudly, flying above the gate. Giving the signal, I jumped out of the shadows, killing 2 of the guards nearby the gate with a single swing as I rushed to the gate with my current helpers. As we approached the gate, more and more men started to pour into us, pushing us back, or at least they tried to. I kept swinging my blade, leaving a trail of bodies behind me. Soon enough, it was diversion time. The men I had freed from their prisons charged into battle, reclaiming their freedom, and buying me more than enough time to open the gates. My army was outside charging at full speed towards the open gates, a few minutes away of us. All I had to do was hold my ground for a minute, and I would win this. Come on, fuckers! I shouted as I started to slaughter any men getting close to the doors. My newly acquired friends were falling one by one, but they had completed their mission superbly, and I would honor their deaths with my blade. This marks the end of part 13 of the story Game of Thrones, The Prideful One. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.